Things just keep getting worse for Penn State football as five-star running back commit Kemon Spell says that he's not 100% with Penn State anymore.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And happy game day Saturday to everybody. At least it's supposed to be a happy game day Saturday. You are locked on to Penn State football. My name is Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, as always, here on Locked On Nittany Lions, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. This is a Northwestern Penn State pregame show. At least it's supposed to be, but I think we're going to talk about a lot of other things, the extracurricular outside of the games itself, as Penn State doesn't seem like they're in as good of a standing with Kemon Spell anymore. I mean, Spell said it himself. So this is a live show. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. We will have a conversation here in the live chat. That's a part of these live shows, as always. So yesterday, Kemon Spell had a phenomenal... So this is Friday night. Let's set the stage here as we'll begin with that and then talk about Penn State Northwestern. Kemon Spell had a 6-touchdown game for McKeesport High School last night. He's out of the Pittsburgh area, for those who don't know. And after the game, he's interviewed multiple times. He's interviewed by a couple of the local Pittsburgh area reporters. And he talks for about, there's a 2-minute clip. And at the end of it, a question was asked, hey, where do you stand with Penn State? Khalil Taylor had decommitted. And Spell just paused for a second. He hesitated and he goes, yeah, I'm not 100% with Penn State anymore, and I'm going to be taking some visits, and I have them lined up with Notre Dame and Georgia for the moment. Oh, things go from bad to worse now for Penn State. This is the 2027 class, so I have a lot of takeaways from this overall, okay? And you could begin with any angle. Obviously, this is not good news for Penn State. Here is the good news. Unless something's changed here in the past, you know, since I've looked online to see if he's actually still verbally committed or not. He is still verbally committed, right? So that is somewhat of the good news for Penn State. He's not, but how much value does that hold anymore? After you go on the record and say, like, I'm unsure. Basically, that's what he's saying is, I'm unsure about the Nittany Lions at this point in time. Okay? And you're going to take your visits. You're going to take your unofficial visits, which is not good news for Penn State. So even if he were to stay committed, I don't really see Penn State having this lead or, hey, they're in obviously a really strong standing at this point in time because of what he said, but to continue to schedule visits. And before we know it, okay, so Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, USC, Alabama, Florida State, these are the schools that have been really targeting him. And I think Penn State, good enough's not going to matter if you don't get the 5-star, but I think they've done good enough to this point in time where they've gotten him to reschedule some visits. He's canceled some. He hasn't gone on all of them to this point in time, but he's persistent. He keeps rescheduling and he keeps adding new ones. So Georgia and Notre Dame are the ones that I'm kind of focused on at this point because they are on the horizon. And Jaywan Sider is the one that got Kemon Spell to commit to Penn State originally. Here's another interesting part of all of this. I don't think us, whether it's myself, podcast host, Penn State media member, Penn State fans, and even Penn State themselves, this is uncharted territory for everybody here when it comes to the Penn State point of view collectively. And why I say that is because Penn State doesn't routinely get nationally recruited 5-star players like this, let alone for them to commit early. I'm here starting my early pregame show for Penn State Northwestern off with a discussion about a 2027 running back commit. He is committed, okay? So this isn't an uncommitted prospect that visited Penn State. This is a guy that is tangibly committed, but he's the class of 2027. Okay, so that aside, this is an unfamiliar territory because 5-star players are going to 5-star. 5 stars are going to 5-star, meaning that Penn State is going to have to recruit all the way to the finish line. 5-star players are already confident, sure of themselves. I mean, as they should be. I mean, Kemon Spell is a top 10 player in the entire nation. He's the number 1 overall running back. It's great that he's in Penn State's backyard, which might add insult to injury if he ends up flipping away or decommitting. So that's either going to help Penn State or it's going to hurt them in the long run. It's a double-ended sword there. But this actually is somewhat of a routine thing. 5 stars are going to see not as committed, not as invested at times. This isn't subjective to Kemon Spell. Jeremiah Smith did this with Ohio State. Texas deals with this. Oregon actually deals with this. Where players, prospects, they'll be committed one day and then they won't the next. And it has to do with, you know what? 5-star players, the attention's going to get to their head. But also at the same time, schools are not going to stop recruiting. They're not going to stop recruiting a player like Kemon Spell. And I know that Khalil Taylor just decommitted. The same thing. Khalil Taylor's not going to be... This is 2027. Guys are still taking... We haven't even had official visits. The scheduled official visits for these prospects. That's still a ways away. These guys are just taking unofficial visits. So this happens quite a bit. But from the Penn State point of view, you don't see it that often because Penn State's not routinely in the mix for 5-star players like this. I commend Penn State for trying to get out in front and getting Kemon Spell to commit early, getting Khalil Taylor to commit early, Leighton Von Brandt, guys that they identified in the recruiting process, whether that was through early camps, because these guys have been committed. I know Khalil Taylor just decommitted, the top 100 wide receiver. But Kemon Spell and Taylor, up until this point, have been committed for quite some time in the 2027 class. I'll finish on this note. This is James Franklin's, one of his last points of leverage here. So I don't think Penn State's going to say, well, we're going to fire you because the class of 2027 is or is not falling apart, right? But James Franklin could use that to say, hey, look, I have a top 5 class brewing in 2027. That's a national title contending group. Why should we part ways? This is just a bad season, okay? Mistakes happen, upsets happen. Look at 2026 and look at 2027. You don't have as much leverage now if 2027 is going to fall apart the way it is. It's also very telling Penn State is continuing to recruit running backs. They're going after running backs in the class of 2027. So it's not fun to potentially lose a 5-star player. It is not fun. And we'll see what happens. It's also very far out. I'm not ruling out Khalil Taylor recommitment, right? I'm not ruling out that Kemon Spell would change his mind because he's actually done this. This isn't brand new. He's kind of done this over the past couple of months where he's like, I'm going to visit here and I got this offer and I really like this school. And here are the top 6 schools that could flip me. Then he's back on Penn State's campus for another visit. So it really is the 5-star recruitment, the true 5 stars. Well, they got Nicholas Singleton that one time. They got denied Dennis Sutton that one time. Different circumstances, especially in the heart of NIL and the transfer portal where we are with college football. This is the new recruitment of a 5-star. Go look at Texas, go look at Florida, go look at Ohio State, go look at Oregon, and see some of these other recruiting battles and what they have to deal with. It's par for the course. It's par for the course. The Penn State point of view, you're just not used to it because Penn State isn't normally in these kinds of recruitments. So we'll see how it all unfolds. It truly goes down to the wire. If Penn State wants to have him committed, they can get him. It's just going to be a long recruiting battle. Okay, so we're starting off a Penn State Northwestern pregame show talking about a 2027 5-star running back. Commit, not commit. He could decommit in theory, but right now for Spell to actually, put an actual stamp on it, his commitment isn't as it's a verbal commitment. I think people would agree, but I think it's an even competition right now between Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame. Penn State's not out of it if he ultimately decommits. It's just not as flattering, right? Okay, so let's actually talk Penn State Northwestern. I see the live chat is active. We'll hear from all of you because this is a live pregame show where I want to talk to you, and we'll talk more Penn State football coming up next here after the break. And today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. With over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Well, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer, and the part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5. If it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll love how FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays. You can try player props. You can even follow live lines during the games themselves. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. And Penn State, that is right, there are lines available for Penn State versus Northwestern for the game. Penn State is a 22.5-point favorite, so they're still a strong favorite here. The total is set at 48.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And remember, if you're a new customer and you bet $5, if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today to get started. Yes, welcome into the pregame show to talk Penn State versus Northwestern. I think we're talking about all other things that are related to Penn State because that the conversation's not so much about the game, but it should be. So I'm going to jump into the comments section here, and let's get some of your thoughts, your reactions, and we'll talk about Penn State and Northwestern. If you have any questions about the game itself, ask away. I don't think NIL and the portal are going to work out the way you analyze. It'll likely transpire more akin to Penn State's season records after joining the Big Ten, a fair amount of losing seasons. Okay. You also have the second-tier coaching hire issue as James Franklin is demonstrating good, but not top flight. The non-conference schedule is doing you no favors either with Penn State. We're just rattling them off back to back to back. The non-conference schedule is doing you no favors either with Penn State games being preempted in other regions. You're really going to take some hard recruiting hits. The wussy-wagging scheduling, the losses in conference, the lost television exposure. It's not a good recipe. If we're in reference to Khalil Taylor, in reference to Kemon Spell, I think those are all great points. Penn State's in a complicated situation because those games were scheduled as early as 2018. Nevada was decided in 2018. So hindsight's 2020 where it's, Penn State cooked up a terrible non-conference schedule. These games were decided 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago even. So the non-conference schedule is what it is. But yes, Penn State, because other schools are doing it, are obligated to try to schedule that home run type of game right out of the gate. It would have benefited Penn State, of course, to play those kinds of games. Heck, Penn State, I don't think used the non-conference games to their advantage. They didn't play any of the backups. These were because I talked about how, hey, this is a Penn State team with Drew Aller, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, a bunch of veterans, and I know they're not all playing up to where they should be, but the non-conference games were supposed to be about establishing depth, and they didn't establish said depth. I think we're just going downhill from there. Yeah. It's not good. It's bad. It's just kind of on the heels of everything, right? UCLA loss, whiteout loss, and then potentially 2 recruiting losses, 2 players that are, borderline. One was a borderline 5-star, and the other one is a 5-star. It is 2027, so we're very early in these conversations. First of many that will be leaving and taking Penn State out of their top schools in recruiting. Depends. Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor, it stings, but Penn State is still recruiting pretty talented players. They're not just going to get unranked and 3-star players. Penn State is just not in tier. If Penn State wants to get in tier 1, they have to recruit players like Kemon Spell and Khalil Taylor and keep them committed. If you're going to stay in tier 2, you're going to go get the second tier of recruits. This is just the start of the decommitments. Franklin laid an egg, and now other coaches are taking advantage of the situation. No one was going to stop recruiting Kemon Spell. No one was going to stop recruiting Khalil Taylor. And when you have evidence of the dam potentially breaking, that's where you have to beat UCLA. None of this I don't think these recruits question anything if the on-field results are different. If they beat Oregon, they didn't. If they don't lose to UCLA, I don't think Kemon Spell and I don't think Khalil Taylor are questioning anything. But they can still, they were going to be recruited one way or another. Those Ohio State, Notre Dame, and the rest of them aren't going to go away because we're talking about 2027, and these players are very, very talented. All right, let's talk about Penn State versus Northwestern, right? Because this is a game that Penn State, you would think, would dominate. I'm not expecting that. I think 21 and a half, 22 points is a lot of points for the Nittany Lions because I don't know how they're going to be from the mental standpoint. You were clearly not in the right headspace going into Oregon. Slow start. You have the whiteout. You have the crowd. You're playing passive to an extent. Players are making mistakes that they shouldn't. Oregon was sharp from start to finish. I know they allowed the comeback, but Oregon was sharp right out of the gate. Penn State was not. Then you go UCLA. That was bad. That was bad. We don't need to sugarcoat that. We don't need to dive into why it was bad. You lost to arguably the worst team in FBS football. And now, how do you bounce back in a game where there's still no juice? Northwestern's not that good. Northwestern's not, I know Penn State's unrivaled, but Northwestern isn't a rival at all. There's no animosity. They're just Northwestern. So you really have to do some heavy lifting to get yourself ready for this game from the mental aspect. And that's on Penn State's coaching staff. That's on Penn State's players. They're supposed to do that. Oregon's able to do it. Oregon is able to rally and get up for these kinds of games. So Penn State has to do it. The home crowd is not going to be nice. They're not going to be kind. I don't blame them. Look, I take no stance in, okay, should the fans boo? Should the fans not boo? Because there's going to be Fire Franklin chants. It obviously doesn't help. And the team that you're rooting for, you should want them to do well. But at the same time, you also have to earn the fans' respect. Because I think of, this isn't a direct comparison, but was Auburn at the time when all the writing was on the wall, were they supposed to cheer for Brian Harsin? Were they supposed to commend him and say, hey, this guy's doing, we know that he's struggling, but we will continue to applaud him? And no, you have to earn the respect of the fan base. So kind of like I said, I've used this analogy before, double-ended sword in a way where should the fans boo, should they not boo? But you don't get any boos or jeers when you're winning against teams that you should be winning. Losing to Oregon's one thing. It's the loss to UCLA that is completely unacceptable. And if it wasn't for Franklin's buyout, I wonder, with the way that things have been, if Penn State goes in a different direction. James Franklin has incredible job security here. But Penn State is favored by 3 touchdowns in this game. Northwestern, we'll talk about them more and why I think this game is going to be a lot closer. And I don't think Penn State's going to blow them out. I think even with playing with a chip on your shoulder, I don't know how much better Penn State's going to look compared to UCLA and compared to Oregon. This is going to be another tough game where they're going to have to prove it. Plus, we'll continue to get your questions, your comments from the live chat here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIH Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all of the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, but just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or on your computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That is quo.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right. And I see we have some more comments in the live chat. Thank you for the super chat as well. Means a lot, means a ton. Is it true that the 2027 class running back has a visit with Ohio State when we play at Ohio State? If so, that seems bad for us. It's potential. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but I know that in the immediate future, he's visiting Notre Dame and he's visiting Georgia. All visits are not good because it goes against Penn State's recruitment. That's kind of the risk that you take when you get a commitment this early. We'll see how it all unfolds. This is a recruitment that's not going to, I don't think Penn State's out of it. If they were to get a decommitment, Kemon Spell saying, here's what it all means. It means that Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia, whomever else, Alabama, USC, it means they all have an even chance with Penn State. Penn State is not leading anymore. That is my overall takeaway. 5 stars are going to 5-star. They're going to be recruited until that day in December when that recruiting class becomes finalized on National Signing Day. Penn State's just not used to this. Okay, because they don't routinely get Jeremiah Smith. They don't routinely get Ryan Williams caliber players. This is new for all of us. Okay, let's continue to talk about the game itself, because there is a game, believe it or not, today on October 11th. Penn State Northwestern, 3-touchdown favorite. You would like to see a lot of things from Penn State. Okay, this is a Northwestern team that is, I like Northwestern playing Penn State in this spot because it forces Penn State to self-correct the issues that hurt them against Oregon, that hurt them against Northwestern, and will show up again against Iowa as well. So Northwestern is just a worse version of Iowa. And to an extent, a significantly worse version of Ohio State. I mean that somewhat lightly because I know Julian Say and Jeremiah Smith, right, and the cluster of stars that they have. But Northwestern plays disciplined football. They don't make too many mistakes. Preston Stone has thrown a few interceptions here and there, but they don't commit penalties. They don't make those egregious mistakes. You can out-talent them, but this is still your classic Northwestern team with David Braun now as the head coach, where they just play physical. They play discipline. They want to hit the opponent across from them. That is the kind of football that they play, and then they're balanced. They'll try to beat you with play action, which is what Iowa's going to do. Like, they are really balanced. Northwestern's a really balanced team. Preston Stone can pick up yards with his legs, and Penn State's got to account for all of that. No, Preston Stone is not Nico Iamaleava. It's not going to be a situation where he gets 150 yards, but this guy can roll out, and if Northwestern's smart, which I would like to think that they are, they're a Division I Big Ten football team, they saw what happened against Penn State, between Penn State and UCLA. They're going to use quarterback design keepers for Preston Stone because he's not a statue. And how does Penn State respond? Because it's different when it's right there in front of you, where it is so obvious that Nico Iamaleava is going to run, but it's not. It's a little more subtle with Preston Stone. So what is Penn State's game plan? Are Denai Dennis Sutton and Chaz Coleman and Zariah Fisher, are they going to be more keen on keeping the pocket from, are they going to play contain? Or do you use Zachy Wheatley to be the quarterback spy? That's one thing I'm looking for Penn State in regard to this matchup. How do they handle the QB spy or any sort of QB draw situations? How does Penn State defend against the run? Because Northwestern is an efficient ground team. They don't ground and pound, but actually this offensive line, if you go to Pro Football Focus, they are just outside of the top 10 in run blocking, and they are top 30 in pass blocking. Well, Penn State's defensive line, aside from Denai Dennis Sutton and some moments from Chaz Coleman, have not been very good. It's particularly in the middle. It's Zane Durant. It's Alonzo Ford. Northwestern can't beat you through the air. So this is a pretty simple read from Jim Knowles. Stack the box, call some run blitzes, help out your defensive tackles. Jim Knowles can't be stubborn. And I know that's been a common accusation of his defenses, whether he was at Ohio State or Oklahoma State. Just that is the... Oh, I'm blanking on the word, but that is the Achilles heel, for a lack of a better term, of Jim Knowles, that he's stubborn. He doesn't make adjustments. And I guess we kind of saw that with the QB spy or lack thereof against UCLA. So is he going to stay true to what his defense is despite these struggles, or are they going to make significant adjustments where you see consistent run blitzes, where you're not trying to just get pressure with 4 defensive linemen? Are you going to blitz more? Are you going to run blitz more? Are you going to stack the box? Are you going to press the line of scrimmage? Are you going to dare Northwestern to throw the football to its 1 or 2 lone receivers? Northwestern doesn't have this aerial attack. What they basically they rely on a talented offensive line, very talented offensive line, which is a great test for Penn State. They run the football effectively, and then they use play action to set up the pass. And then they complete those chunk plays, which is what vintage Iowa has done. And it's not a recipe of success for Penn State. But if you stay disciplined, this should be an easy game for Penn State. My final score prediction is 27-17. I think Penn State still wins fairly decisively. They're going to look like the better team at points in time because I still believe that they're more talented. But what's their mental capacity at this point in time? How are they responding to the adversity? Because I fully expect an early 3 and out, the boos, the crowd to chant Fire Franklin throughout most of the game, and that doesn't help you. So that is going to be an uphill battle as it is. The crowd is against you. Northwestern's a feisty, scrappy team. That's not good when you're coming off of 2 losses like that. But it's also an important test because Penn State needs that additional adversity. Okay, if they're going to run the table, if they're going to circle the wagons and go 10-2 and win out and make the college football playoff and everything else, this is what you have to do. So this Northwestern game is a big deal. Obviously, no game's a pushover because you would have assumed that against UCLA, and you can't take any of them for granted. I didn't really talk about the offense for Penn State. Northwestern plays sound defense because their offense isn't this juggernaut. the defense at times can break down and what have you. But like I said, they don't commit a lot of penalties. They have one player in Aiden Hubbard who's actually really good in pass rushing situations. So Penn State's offensive line, that comes into question. Watch for Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. What's the dynamic there? Is Katron Allen going to be playing more? Is Nicholas Singleton going to take a little bit, is he going to ride the bench? Is he going to be benched in favor of Katron Allen? I don't see that, because we are all on the same page with James Franklin might be a little stubborn and loyal to a fault. I expect more of Katron Allen, but not 100-0. It's probably going to be 60-40. Singleton's still going to get his snaps. He's still going to get his reps. I want to see the passing game. I want to see it evolve. Trevor Payton, Devontae Ross should not be held without a catch against UCLA. Force feed the football to the wide receivers. I don't care. I just don't care at this point. Force feed the football. Drew, don't be afraid to throw an interception. Trust in one-on-one coverage. Build the chemistry. I just want to see the keys for the offense. Feed Fat Man. Feed Katron Allen. Force feed the football to the wide receivers in the passing attack. Build that chemistry with Trevor Pena, Devontae Ross, and Kyron Hudson. They are talented. And win the game fairly. You don't have to win by 50, 60 points. That'd be nice. But be better than my score prediction of 27-17. Try to block out the noise. Win 34-17, 41-17, because that's actually what Penn State should be capable of. At least we thought that was the case in the preseason. We're at our half-hour mark. So I hope you enjoyed the pregame show. If you joined a little late, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation around Penn State football. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments afterwards. We'll do a post-game show. We're going to do a live post-game show to talk about Penn State versus Northwestern and any other developments around this Penn State football team. So if you're new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, because we do this daily. We talk about Penn State football, wrestling, recruiting, basketball, hockey too, you name it. It's all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.